welcome to the Wealth Attraction Secret, how your sex life influences your income. Now, before we get all the way into this provocative conversation about how you can fire things up in the bedroom and your bank account, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Christy Holt, aka the Happiness Hussy. I am also an author, a podcaster, and a mentor for whole ass humans who are on a mission to cultivate healthy, loving relationships that don't just satisfy, but that totally fucking thrill you. Now, drawing on my own experiences and my own personal journey from relationship despair to blissfully partnered, I'm excited to be here today to share some pivotal shifts that can help you kickstart your transformation starting today. So let's get tapped into the richness in life and love that you deserve, shall we? Now, joining me today, I have Irva Cameron. And I cannot wait, Irva, to dive into this super divine conversation with you. And I'd love to invite you to introduce yourself before we get into the bottom line of the conversation.
Yes, and I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Christy, for having me. So my name, as Christy mentioned, is Irva Cameron, and I am the CEO of The Limitless Scale, which started off as the online startup coach. And ultimately, what I do in my business is help service-based, especially entrepreneurs, integrate profit-producing systems and really scale their business and really become limitless, because that's the whole really concept of the business. The limitless scale is that your potential is limitless, and my goal is to help you achieve that. And so there's so many different categories and aspects of that. It's not just business. It's not just like, okay, what is my business strategy? There's like so much other stuff involved, and this is one of them. And so that's why I'm excited to talk about this today as well.
Yes, this is going to be such a fun and juicy conversation. And if you are watching us either live or on the replay, I would love for you to let us know. Drop a hashtag live or hashtag replay in the comments. And please feel free to interact, whether you're here with us live and we can actually respond to your comments in real time, or if you're catching the replay, we still want to hear from you and get your feedback. And we will absolutely be watching the video so that we can come back and share, our responses to any questions that you might have or encouragements for you as you are taking things to the next level. So let's dive into today's juicy topic, shall we? So this is such a fun topic because there is this incredible connection between sex and money that we can often we can miss it, right? And the thing is that one's sex life can actually really be an indicator of how their financial success. I can't stop saying that. Their financial success, Freudian slip maybe, they're tied together because in many ways, the way that we do one thing in one area often plays out in things that we do in other areas, right? At the core of it is the relationship that we have with ourselves. And that is what is actually impacting the way that we do all of the things, right? And all of the relationships that we have. And when I speak about this relationship with self, I mean, it impacts not just like our romantic relationships, but our relationships with all kinds of other people, as well as the relationship with, say, our body, with food, with the media, social media, with our bank account, with our business. All of these things are impacted by the relationship that we have with ourselves. So, Irva, I would love for you to share your thoughts on this connection before we continue and get to the meat of this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think that your own kind of relationship with yourself is very impactful on everything you do. And that relationship with yourself comes down to, I feel like, belief. Like, what do you believe about yourself? Right. And it comes down to that concept of you can only go as far as you think you can, right? You can only be as successful as you think you can. And if you think you can't do something, you can't, right? And so
We really
I
get in our
think,
own way.
yeah, exactly. So I think that belief is everything. And if we can rewire those beliefs, if we can understand that and use that to our advantage, it'll show up in every aspect of our lives, sex, love, financial health, like in every way, if we can really hone in on that and understand how to use it.
Absolutely. And I mean, confidence to ask for what you want, right? This is something that matters across all areas of life. Because if you're, first of all, not clear on what you want, which a lot of us go through life not entirely clear about what it is that
Yeah.
we want, if we don't take steps to figure that out, we are less likely to have that experience that we really want. And I've been talking about this a bit lately because I really feel and find from my personal experience that it's easy to identify the things we don't want, right? Because they're like very glaring in our face. And we don't know what we don't know. So it can be hard to identify what it is that we really do want while we're amidst maybe the shitty things that we don't want. That picture is so clear. It can be hard for us to step outside of that. And so if we were to build this relationship within ourselves, to build this confidence, to build this worthiness, which by the way, you're already worthy, right? You don't have to
Yes.
do anything to create that. You just need to actually step into it and
And believe
be
it.
the person who's worthy, which is exactly right, is believing that you're
Yeah.
worthy. I think as Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. And that's
Yeah, that's what I
absolutely,
was referring to before.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
absolutely right. If you believe you can have something, there are pathways. They will show themselves to you so that you can go and create it. And if you don't believe you can have something, well, chances are you're not even going to take the steps towards it, right?
Yeah. And I was actually thinking about this, I think it was earlier today or last night. I was thinking about how like decisions, the decisions we make, right? And how much that has to do with like your mindset. So like people think about mindset and it's like, oh, like, they have just so many limiting beliefs around it. Like, oh my gosh, like there's a limit to what you can do and how positive you can think and things like that. So I was thinking about like decisions and how like when you talk about manifestation and things like that, it's really the decisions that you're making, right? Like if I make a decision right now that I'm going to pick up this bottle of water and drink it, I'm going to do that, right? That's my decision. So I
Yeah,
think what we have to start doing is start approaching like our goals as not goals, not just goals, but as decisions. Like this is what I'm going to do. And that's how you're going to make it happen. If you end up looking at things as an option, like, I could pick up this bottle of water, or I could, do that. It's like, okay, I probably won't end up picking it up and drinking it, right? But I know something so small, but I think it's like it just kind of relates in terms of your decision making and using that to get to your goals. Does that kind of make sense? Am I making sense there?
totally. And I want to spitball off of
Mhm.
that and share that trying is not doing, right?
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times we say we're trying to do something, but in reality, we are just mulling ideas around in our mind and not actually choosing, like you say, deciding, and then we're not taking action. So, and I think a lot of this comes back again to the lack of clarity about what it is that we truly want, because it's hard to decide when you don't fucking know what you want, right? Then it's just a whole bunch of
Yes.
ideas. And this is so common, I think, in the time that we're living in. There's so
Yeah.
much information available. It's literally nonstop. And it's not for lack of knowledge that we're not, from an individual basis. It's not that's causing us to not move forward. It's actually probably so much knowledge causing analysis paralysis, as I like to call it, or
Hmm.
this indecision that keeps you from moving forward, keeps you from
Yeah.
taking the action required to make the beautiful shit happen in your life. And so bringing it back to getting clarity, clarity is what gives you confidence, right? When you know what
Yeah.
you want and you are not going to settle for anything that's not that, that
Yeah.
gives you a lot of power to go out there and create, to choose, to take action that's aligned with that outcome that you desire. Like again, these things apply in relationship, in business, in life, everywhere. So these are crucial
Absolutely.
shifts that you can make within yourself to really uplevel your entire life, almost
Yeah.
all at once.
And I think the first step is understanding and acknowledging the fact that you do need that clarity first, because I think the hardest part of it is, and I think everybody gets stuck in this. I find myself getting stuck in this and then having to kind of like step back. But the hardest part is, like you said, all of this information coming at you and all of kind of the day-to-day things that we end up as just normal human beings just getting stuck in. And so we don't even think about the fact sometimes of like, are we actually doing what we want to do? Are we going towards the goal that we want to go towards? Whether that's in like your relationship, some people are just like stuck in unhappy relationships, but it's because they just like, they're just they're just going through the motions. They're just like going through it and not really thinking about like, okay, I'm unhappy because I don't want this, I want this, right? Some people are just like stuck in financial unhappiness because they're just like stuck. If it's like a 9 to 5, they're just like stuck in their 9 to 5 and they're going through it. They're not really identifying like, why am I unhappy? Is it because of the job itself? Or maybe you do like the job, but you don't like, the hours or the income that you're getting for, like, what is it that's making you unhappy? So first, like, I actually realizing that you're unhappy, realizing that something needs to change, and then identifying like, what is that change you need to make, and then what are those goals that you have. And actually, like, another really quick story about this,
Yeah.
just to kind of like show this happened to me, is like when I was first starting my business, like I was kind of just doing everything and like learned all the stuff and would sometimes make some sales and sometimes make some money, but it wasn't consistent, and I wasn't like, it wasn't like a huge momentum that I was experiencing. And then I realized it's because like I don't really have a specific goal. Like I was just like, okay, I want to make a lot of money, I want to have a successful business, but I didn't really have like a specific goal I was working towards. And I realized how important that is, because the moment I decided, okay, by the end of this year, I want to buy a new house, and this is what my house is going to look like, and blah blah blah, right? Like, so I like identified exactly what it is I want. I was like, I want my own home office, and that's where I'm going to work from. And guess what? When I had that clear goal in mind, and I made the decision that this is what's going to happen, everything that I was doing started aligning with that. And I now sitting in that house, I'm sitting in that home office because I made that decision. And just again, to bounce off of that as well, like even once you reach that goal, it's like, okay, now I'm here. After this happened, I was in a period of time where it was like, my income declined again. And I was like, okay, well, like, why am I not making as much money? Like, I've done this before, like, what's going on? And I realized again, it's because after I reached my goal, I didn't set a new one, right? I was just like, okay, like go through the motions again. And now I'm, sitting down and like setting some new goals for myself and making the decision to achieve those. And I've seen now everything's gaining that momentum again because I have that specific goal I'm working towards. So just some examples of how this applies business wise, but as you said, it applies everywhere: relationship, love, sex,
Yeah.
everything.
It is sometimes really hard to choose, because what is actually really easy is what's familiar, right? That is our comfort zone, so-called comfort zone. I talk about this a lot. It's not that fucking comfortable, but it's familiar and we know what to expect. We know how to handle it. We know, how to deal with life in that place. And I really truly believe that this sense of stuckness that people feel is actually just a tension between what's comfortable and familiar, where they're at now, and the future that they vision and
Oh,
desire
yeah.
for themselves. And so this stuckness, it's not a bad thing. It's a human thing. It's an indication that there's a call to more for you. And so instead of remaining stuck, which we often do when there are so many possible alternatives, we don't have complete clarity. There's an endless amount of goals we could be chasing in life. And this, again, all of this applies to all areas of life. So take it with whatever area you're needing most focus on right now. But the other thing that I think that hangs us up is this desire to have complete clarity of how we're going to get there, right? From A to
Mhm.
Z. And that keeps us stuck again in this analysis paralysis, because we think if we don't have it all fucking figured out, then we can't even begin. And so that's another trap
Yes.
on the other sort of end of the spectrum of the clarity side. And I like to, like, you're talking about those end goals. The way I approach things is actually a little bit different from focusing on the end goal. But yes, there is sort of an end goal in mind. I have these dreams, I have these desires that I want to see come to fruition. And then I sort of reverse engineer it from there. Because what is it that we're after with that end goal? It's probably not actually just about sitting in the house with the office. That's super nice. But what
Mhm.
that does, that gives you maybe confidence. It gives you freedom. It gives you peace.
Mhm.
It gives you the space to be passionate and creative. It's more about the experience that you're going to create
Yes.
rather than the things that you're going to have, right? And it's about the
Yes.
emotions it's going to evoke. And because if we are always chasing the next goal, which is kind of the way goals work, right? We achieve
Mm-hmm.
it and then we're like, okay, what now? I like to really focus on the intention, right? That
Mm-hmm.
feeling, that experience that I want to create, because the true power comes when we start creating and experiencing that now, along the way, on the journey.
Yes.
And then that whole pathway becomes, well, first of all, way more fucking enjoyable. Let me tie this to
Yeah.
sex now, because that sounded a lot like business, but this
Yes.
really applies in intimate relationships as well. Because if your goal is just to finish the deed and get that big O, you are missing so much of the
Of-
delicious journey of intimate connection,
Yes.
right? It is not just about the finish. Otherwise, I guess we would all be racing to the finish to have that as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But you would be missing out on savoring the experience of connection, of gentle touch, of those caresses, of that deep and meaningful exchange. And when you skip over that, it's just a physical interaction that doesn't
Yeah.
have the same weight and emotional result, because truly sex can be such a beautiful exchange of intimate connection and basically like intermingling of your souls, if you're not
Yeah.
just doing it in a mechanical way to get to the end, right? And so
Yeah.
in life, in all areas, if we really set the intention to enjoy the journey, to create the
Yes.
experiences that we want, not just at the end, but all along the way, well, first of all, we're just really going to have a much better time, right? And so this
Yeah.
applies across all areas. And the same thing in your business. If you're doing stuff that you really love, like you said, you figure out that end goal, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer it. What is it that you want to create? You start being that person who has that now. And I know that's like something that kind of life was a
Yes.
mind fuck for me. I'm like, well, how the fuck do I do that when I don't actually have it? But again, if you figure out the key emotions, the experiences that you actually want to create with that end goal, that outcome, and find ways that you can experience that peace, that love, that joy, that confidence now, even if it's little ways, little baby steps, you can
Yeah.
start to step more and more into that experience here and now. And actually, I'm recording an episode for my podcast really soon that is really going to talk about being here and now, because I truly think this is where our magic lies. So I'm not going to go all the way into that because I'm going to save it for that juicy conversation. Key thing is, if you're being that person who is having those experiences now, it becomes clear what the next action step is for you. You don't need the
Yes.
whole trajectory, but you can start to take the next step. And that's the one that really matters. That's where you're choosing, that's where you're deciding, this is me and this is the thing that I'm going to do to further move myself along that journey.
Yes. And I think that people, when you start talking about it in the business sense, I know it's not as I guess not people don't comprehend it, I feel like, as much, or don't understand how it would work as much, because it's like, okay, well, business, like, how am I supposed to enjoy all of these tough obstacles and things I'm trying to figure out, and all of these struggles before I actually get to my financial goal? Like, that's what I want, right? So people don't really understand when you say that, like, enjoy the journey when it comes to business. But when you start explaining it and giving these examples, now it starts making sense. Like, oh wait, that does make sense. And ultimately, I feel like the end result ends up being so much sweeter because of that. And one more thing about that is what I've seen a lot of people worry about too. And this kind of goes back to the analysis paralysis and just kind of like the overthinking and just kind of staying stuck, is that when people will have this goal of, okay, I want to achieve, 6 figures, or I want to achieve this or that, whatever, right? They start trying to map out, like, okay, the how, like you said, right? Like, what are all of the steps to get there? And when you start doing that, you're going to start overthinking again. And if that fear is going to come up of, what if this, what if that, all of these questions, right? Because fear of the unknown, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen, if we're going to get there, how we're going to get there. And I think that's what causes us to like try so hard to just see the whole picture. But that's really our biggest obstacle, is when we try to do that. I had a team member, I was talking about this new project that I want to work on. And one of my team members, which, really understandably started noting out, okay, well, what if this happens? Or, down the line, like we're going to have to do this and this, and it's probably going to be more work if we do it this way. Right. And so all of these like problems and potential issues that will likely come up, right? It wasn't anything unrealistic, but that's kind of when I realized that that also used to be my way of thinking. And that is what was holding me back from taking action. And kind of like what I explained to her was, that's all totally understandable. But if we get so stuck in that cycle of thinking, we're never even going to move forward with this and see what could have been possible. And
Yeah.
so, what we need to do is look at what is the step in front of us right now, the problem in front of us right now that we have to address and solve to get to the next step. And then we'll solve that. And then we'll address everything as it comes. And I found myself doing that for the longest. Like I was trying to create all of these solutions to problems I didn't even have yet. I was just like thinking, I might have this. Okay,
Yeah.
let me create a tracker for this. Let me create like a whole operation system for this. I don't even have that problem yet. And I'm like trying,
Yeah.
I think it's because of that fear of the unknown, that just plays a huge part in it. And actually, like, related side note, because I wanted to mention this while you were talking about the journey as well. Another example, because what you mentioned about like having the big O and then enjoying the journey there, like I feel like that you can start understanding more about, okay, that's what you mean when you say that about business and enjoying the journey. Another really good example that I feel like will make it very, what's the word, comprehensible, understandable, like applicable, I don't know what the word is, but just like help people understand more, is like I'm going on a vacation next week. I'm going to Cancun, I'm going to Mexico. And it's like with any vacation, I feel like one of the best parts about it is that anticipation
Yes.
for when you're going to go on the vacation, right? Like sometimes that's even better than the vacation itself, because now you've made that decision that you're doing this. And now, just like you said, now you're being the person who's doing that.
Yeah.
You're, buying your stuff, you're packing your suitcase, you're making your itinerary, you're planning out everything you're going to do, and it's happening. It's not like, okay, maybe one day if I go to Mexico, I might do this and that. It's not like, I'm going, this is what's happening. And guess what? In next week, I'll be there. And I know that that's a decision, that's a fact. I'm not there yet. Like if you look at me, like, am I in Mexico right now? How can I say it so surely? Anything can happen. You never know, right? But no, like I know that's what's happening and that's what's going to happen. And I think that's the exact way we need to approach our goals with as well. Like, this is the decision I've made. This is what's happening. Now let me enjoy that journey and all of this stuff that's going to lead up to that actually happening. So
Yes, I love that example. That is a really good way to solidify this, I think, in people's minds for how to be it before it's happening, right? It's like living in that anticipation. And I think that what you alluded to is a little bit of creating contrast, right? It's about the journey is about creating contrast so that you can really enjoy the shit out of that vacation when the time is here, all that anticipation and that, excitement leading up to it. How can we apply this in other areas of our lives? I mean, obviously, we have lots of anticipation when sex is done well. So I'm going to we don't even need to explain that one. But I think a lot of times in life, we sit back because we fear the uncertain. And girl, like 10 years ago, I probably would have told you my number one top value is certainty, which
yeah.
ironically, that is where dreams go to die. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because dreams are not fucking certain. They are outside your comfort zone. They are outside of what you already know because you already know this where you're at now. Your big dreams and the exciting possibilities and the opportunities to really experience new, exciting, fresh things in life require you to expand, to hold space for that uncertainty, to be able to embrace that contrast, because that's what actually allows us to have not just an idea of like, oh, this is something, but to really emotionally experience it with all of our senses, right? It's like taking
Yeah.
like book knowledge. Like, sure, you could read a fucking travel book about Cancun, but I'll tell you what, planning your own trip there and getting in there and doing the things is going to get you a lot more actual tangible experience about it, right? And then when you
Yeah.
go there, then you are actually going to bring that idea into reality. But it didn't
Yeah.
start just when you got to Cancun. It started when you started taking those steps, right? You
Right.
decided, this is my vision, and I'm going to take aligned steps from this place of being. And I think that in life, in relationship, in all areas of life, if we start with the mindsets and the perspectives that actually resonate with us, that allow us to be our authentic
Hmm.
human, this is how we can, become fully expressed. And actually, this is what creates happiness, right? I feel like
Yeah.
it's a missed concept that people maybe aren't connecting, that our authentic self and being that authentic self is our pathway to true happiness. Happiness isn't
Yeah.
like chasing fleeting moments. It's not happiness just when I'm in Cancun. It's happiness at my core,
Yes.
my true nature, and then exploring life from this true nature of happiness, peace, love, joy, whatever word you want to put on it, right? I
Yeah.
use happiness, but it could be just as easily joy or peace or love. Those are to
Yeah.
me sort of interchangeable, although we interpret words differently. But the more that we operate from this authentic space, the more we are able to follow our passions and create a life that like truly lights us all the fucking way up. This allows us to
Yes.
build things that are aligned for us, like the business, not like, oh God, I got to check all of these things off my to-do list, but like
Yeah.
I get to do these
Get
things
to.
because
Yes.
it's creating this journey, this experience, this pathway to the outcomes that I desire. And this is me being it now. This is me planning my trip. It's happening,
Yeah.
right? I'm building my business, or I'm maybe in, bring it back to the bedroom. I'm building up to a big finish, but it's not just about that. It's about the entire journey along the way. And I think
Yeah.
if we can stay in what's aligned for us, then we're much less likely to, you know, fall under the spell of societal expectations and
Oh my
shoulds,
gosh.
people
I was,
pleasing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was literally just about to like go into that as
Yeah.
well, because what you were saying, like, it's about like, yes, being authentic and being your true self, but also even before that, allowing yourself to be that, right? There's like, okay, yeah, you can just, you're supposed to do that, like, okay, like, I want to be my most authentic self. I want to be myself. I don't want to, like, put on a facade. I don't want to like hold back. Like, I don't want to. But in order to actually do it, you have to allow yourself. And that's such a big part of it. And sometimes I feel like I thought about this a while ago, and I don't think I fully understood this concept until just giving the Cancun example again. Like, at the beginning of the year, like, when I was writing down my goals and my resolutions and everything, like, one of the things that I wrote down was like, I want to travel more. And so I was trying to get more specific about it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to travel like somewhere every quarter of this year. And so one of the things was, okay, like, in this quarter, I'm going to go to Cancun, Mexico, but more so, like, instead of like, oh, I'm going, like, it was more like I was looking at it as, these are my goals. Like, these are the things I want to do. Right. In this quarter, I want to go to Cancun, Mexico. And then, like, now the time's coming closer, and there was nothing planned. Like, I was like, there's nothing indicating that I'm going to go to Cancun. I'm nothing. Right. And so I looked back at these goals. I was like, okay, it says it there. It's not happening. Like, what, like, why isn't it happening yet? And I was just like, it's because this is something I said, like, I want to do, but I haven't decided. And I know something, again, so like simple, but I hadn't decided that, no, it is happening. And
Yeah.
I asked myself, I was like, what if I just like allow myself to have this, right? And I realized there was a lot of, like, internal limiting beliefs and things going on in my brain, like, okay, first I have to do this, first I have to figure this out. I won't be able to unless, like, this with my business, or I should probably do this first, right? There's some other priorities I need to take care of, like, all of these things that are coming up, right? But I looked at that, that goal written down. I was like, what if I just, despite everything, just allowed myself to have this? And so I made that decision. I was like, you know what? This isn't anymore like a goal that I want. This is something I'm doing. I made the decision. I'm going to Cancun, Mexico, and guess what? I'm going next week. So it's really comes down to being as simple as that, as allowing yourself to, and then making those decisions accordingly, is what I
Yeah,
feel like.
absolutely. And this is a theme that I'm still working through myself, because the idea of wanting something actually separates you from having that thing. And the more you want the thing,
Mm-hmm.
the more you experience wanting the fucking thing and not having the thing. And so,
Yes, exactly.
this is sort of like trying versus doing, right? It's wanting
Yes.
versus having. And yeah, I'm still working through this one, because I feel like oftentimes our thoughts get in the way of that, because we're like, well, I don't have it yet. right? I don't
Mhm.
have this thing yet. I want this thing. So how do I stop wanting it? And I swear to God, I'm gonna be talking to myself right now, but no, I'm sure somebody out there is also resonating with this. I
Yeah.
just feel like this is also, me solidifying some of this even further on a whole nother level for myself, because the experience of wanting, the more that we operate from that place of wanting, the more we get that experience of wanting. And
Mhm.
oftentimes it's a shift in our thinking, which, so often it's actually our thoughts that get in our way and stop us from
Yes.
actually having the thing that we want and keep us in this space of trying or
Yes.
wanting. And so if we can master those thoughts, then we can actually be more powerful in our decisions, right? And that is a decision to master your thoughts and then to start to act from that
Yes.
place, giving yourself the permission slip, recognizing you're already worthy of having that thing that you want
Yes.
and going out and making it fucking happen, right? So yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna throw it back to you to add any other additional thoughts you have there, because I'm still like a little noodling this one myself, because I think it's
Yeah.
so powerful to shift from wanting to having. And that's an
Yes.
easier said than done kind of shift. I
Absolutely.
understand.
Yeah. And I think that like just as you said, like wanting and trying is different than having and doing. And I
Yeah.
think understanding and realizing that when you want to do something, or if you're trying, you're like, oh, I'm going to try to do it. You're giving yourself the option. You're giving yourself an option for it to not happen. If you,
Yeah.
oh, I want to do this, like you're giving yourself the option, okay, I want to do it, but maybe I won't be able to, right? Like you're giving that yourself the option. Whereas having like at behaving as you already have it is there's no option, like you have it. Doing it, it's like, okay, you're not trying anymore, like you doing it, right? And so like yes, it's a huge perspective shift. And I think also going back to what you said, like it is, I feel like 100% true, is that what gets in our way at the end of the day really is our thoughts, it's our mindset,
Yeah.
it's all of those, that internal like chatter of like, okay, well, maybe this, if that, what if this, what if that. And I don't know if it was you who I talked to about this, um, but that book, Don't Believe Everything You Think. Did I talk to you about that?
Maybe have heard of that as well. I totally believe that, because our thoughts they're not all us, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not your thoughts. And
Yeah.
when you
And
can create that distance, it really can help you shift things.
exactly. I think what really, the concept that really helped me with this is just this simple thing. And I feel like everyone needs to remind themselves of this, write it down somewhere. But there is a difference between having thoughts and thinking about your thoughts.
Yeah.
So having thoughts like, oh, this is something I want to do, or maybe I should do this, right? Like it, if you want to do something, or if you have a thought of like, whatever, right? Like that's when the internal chatter starts coming up and you're like, okay, well, what if this, what if that? That's called thinking about your thoughts, right? Like if I say like, okay, I want to pick this up, but before, or I want to drink this water, but before actually drinking it, now I'm thinking like, like if I drink it now, maybe I'll run out before the end of our conversation,
Hello,
right? Or if I,
overthinking.
yeah, or if I drink it now, like what if like I have to go pee and then I have to get up in the middle of this, right? Or if I drink this now, like whatever, right? Like it's like all of these. Now that's thinking about my thought of I want to drink this water,
Yeah.
right? And all of that is getting in my way, or even if I do end up drinking the water at the end, it's pushing that out. Like it's it's taking me longer to do the thing that I thought of doing, or I'm not going to do it at all and I'm just going to put it down. Right. So I think that's just like a simple example of thinking about your thoughts versus having a thought and just doing it.
And I think the key thing for anybody who's like, well, how do I tell the difference? Because maybe if this is a new concept to you, maybe you're like,
Mm-hmm.
how the fuck do I tell? I'll tell you
Yeah.
what the difference is. The first thought is loving, right? That first thought is
Yes.
something that is loving and nurturing and helpful to you. All those remaining additional overthinking thoughts are based in fear. They're the what ifs. They're the I don't know if this might be a problem. It's the constantly problem creating spiral,
The
right? It's a
critical.
negative thought spiral. And I talk in my book about stopping the spiral, because it's so crucial for us to stop all of those spiraling thoughts so that we can actually just take action on the things that we
Mm-hmm.
really want to do to create an authentic life, to build healthy boundaries and to build confidence and to build up our self-worth so that we can have and be who and what we want. And I probably said that in the wrong order. Nonetheless, it is
Yeah.
these action steps. Deciding what is and isn't in alignment for you
Yes.
requires healthy boundary setting. It requires this bit of clarity, and it requires in relationships and in your business deciding to adhere to your boundaries, whether that be things that you do and don't like in the bedroom, or whether that's, clients that are not a good fit in business, right? And choosing to act from a place that is in alignment and is authentically you cannot be done without setting these healthy boundaries and taking action from this place, right? This is actually really crucial if we want to build our confidence, build our sick or our self-worth and
Yeah.
our passion from this place, from this aligned place. We have to have these things in our
Yeah.
ducks in a row in this. And again, this is this relationship with you from the inside. This is not just shifting your mind, but also shifting your heart and your soul so that everything
Yeah.
is in alignment and moving towards what is most loving for you. Because what's most loving for you is like the best possible outcomes for you. That's where your dreams come true. And to connect back to this previous version of me that was so terrified about uncertainty, you have to be able to hold space for uncertainty, because the magic
Mhm.
does not happen inside that comfort zone where everything is safe and familiar, right? We
Yeah.
have to start taking baby steps outside of this comfort zone in order to expand ourselves. Maybe this is, little tiny things that we can do to feel better in our meat suit, right? Maybe this is little tiny things that we can do to feel more comfortable being more visible in our business. Maybe it's little tiny things that we can do to, show up and speak our authentic truth in our workplace or with other people or whatever the case may be. But the key thing is deciding, what is that next little step? What does that feel? What would feel really good and nurturing to me? Because that is actually going to be your direction, not what feels fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And then also, I just want to add to that, and before I throw it back to you, is that sometimes our thoughts will confuse this loving, nurturing thing for something that's scary just because it's unfamiliar. And that can
Yeah.
create a lot of resistance to us taking that baby step. And the truth is, excitement and fear can feel quite similar in your body. So you
Mhm.
need to be able to hold space for a little bit of discomfort, right? And really truly ask yourself, well, what is it that I really truly desire? And what
Yeah.
would this be in alignment with the outcome that I desire? And then if it does feel a little scary because it's uncertain, then you're gonna pull up your big girl panties, right? And you're gonna just
Yeah.
toe that line a little bit. You're gonna step over it. You're gonna just push yourself a little bit to feel, a little bit more confident, as though, like, say, like naked, like physically, but also emotionally, mentally naked, right? Expressing yourself and stepping
Yeah.
into this new thing, giving yourself the permission to grow and expand.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think just like also going back to the boundaries, I think in order to know what your boundaries are so you can make decisions understanding what your boundaries are, because it comes back to the decisions you're making, right? And
Yeah.
you want to make these decisions knowing that, okay, like is it in alignment with my goals, and does it fit like within the boundaries that I have to meet those goals and go in
Yeah.
the direction that I want to go to, and stay true to myself. And in order to even do that, it goes all the way back to clarity. Like you have to have
Yeah.
that clarity.
Yeah.
But I think also people confuse that, okay, well, you want clarity, but then once you start trying to achieve clarity, you start the lines start getting blurred, because now you want clarity in everything, and you're not like trying to see any uncertainty. But I think the key is the balance of understanding, okay, the clarity needs to be for the direction you're going in. Like what is it that you want to achieve? What is the direction you want to go in? What is that feeling ultimately that you want to be achieving? And so you can start working on starting to feel that way now, but also being comfortable with uncertainty and the fact that you don't exactly know how it's going to happen. So there's that, again, that balance and that difference between having the clarity of the direction you want to go in, but being comfortable enough with the uncertainty and just taking action despite that, and despite the fear of, I don't know what's going to happen next, but at least you have clarity on where you're going regardless of what happens next.
And it requires some vulnerability, right? Because what happens is why we don't take that next step and why we feel like we need to have this whole thing mapped out before we take that first step is a protection mechanism. You know, people talk about self-sabotage. I actually believe it's self-preservation. It's a protection mechanism so that we don't quote unquote fail or get hurt in the process. And we do this in relationships too. We end up with heartbreak and we end up closing ourselves off in an effort to avoid getting hurt again. But guess who fucking gets hurt when you do this? When you close off, you are hurting yourself and you are actively preventing yourself from having that very outcome that you truly want, which is the love, the acceptance, the peace, the love, the joy, the, you know, the experiences that you want. So both in business and in relationship, we need to step forth with a bit of vulnerability, right? We're not going to get it perfect. We're not going to get it, you know, 100% right the first time, but this one action step in the right direction is going to get us the clarity that we want. We get the clarity in the movement. It's kind of like when I started as a health coach. And so I would tell people, like, you don't get motivation while you're sitting on the couch, right? You take action and then the motivation follows and it helps to propel, keep the momentum going. Same thing with clarity. You don't get clarity by sitting back and wishing and hoping and dreaming. You get more and more clarity as you start taking the next step. So if we can start to take the next step to hold the space for not everything's going to work out perfectly. Perfect is an illusion anyway. So we can just set that one right aside and actually go for real. Real and done is way better than perfect. And focus on just that next step, right? That's how we avoid getting in that overthinking trap where we have a million thoughts, creates a whole lot of overwhelm and anxiety. And if you actually stop to look at your overwhelm or your anxiety, you'll often realize, like, holy shit, this is actually just my own thoughts that are creating this anxiety, this overwhelm within me. I've had that experience a number of times where I've noticed my overwhelm and I'm like, what's actually driving this? Oh, it's me. Oh,
Yeah.
my bad. It's me.
Yeah.
And I'm not actually my thoughts. So I can just observe what's coming up there and move forward without that. Right. And you know, ultimately, this is the process of getting to know yourself and to getting to know your
Yes.
business and to getting to know what will and will not work, getting to know what your boundaries are. And by the way,
Mhm.
boundaries aren't like, you know, a lot of people think they're just like a wall to keep people and things
Mhm.
out. And it's not that. It's actually boundaries are an invitation into an authentic connection with you. They
Mhm.
are a door, a bridge, if you will, rather than a wall. And so, yes,
Yeah.
this requires vulnerability. It, you know, is an invitation, and not everyone is going to take it. Not everything is going to work out. And it's all a learning process. And if you're in business and you are not someone who is committed to the learning and growth process, I'll tell you what, you're going to have a hard time because the
Yeah.
whole process is learning as you go and adjusting the course. You can't you can map out a trip somewhere, but eventually you're going to hit a detour and you might have to reroute. And the same thing is
Yeah.
true in business. You may have to adjust your course somewhat, try something. Listen, you're never committed to anything forever. And this is a
Yeah.
permission slip a lot of us business owners really need. You can fucking try something. And if it doesn't
Yeah.
work out, you can try something else. It's all
Yeah.
okay. It's all part of the process. And if you're too worried about, you know, the appearance of failure, that is
Mhm.
going to keep you stuck from taking action. It's like trying to avoid the disappointment, trying to avoid the fear, trying to avoid the heartbreak keeps you from ever experiencing the thing that you truly want, the success, you know, the love, the experiences. And the more you can actually just act from your aligned space, the more that next step will open up the clarity, will open up the opportunities, the possibilities, and you'll see
Mhm.
a whole lot more opportunities and options and choices that you may not have previously seen because the overwhelm and the overthinking tends to have us put our blinders on and stick with
Mhm.
what is safe and familiar. And so if we can,
100%.
you know, really connect inward with our authentic selves and act from this space, we are going to be able to move beyond that, right? Into
Yeah.
creating a new reality, the dreams that we want to have come true, the experiences that we want to have. And we don't have to wait for some, way down the road. We can start
Yeah.
experiencing those as soon as we decide. And that is
Yeah.
absolutely magic.
Yeah, and I think just touching on one of the things that you mentioned about the fear of the appearance of failure, like even being okay with the fact that you may have the appearance of failure and just like coming to terms with that and like actually being okay with that, that is being vulnerable, right? Like what is the
Yeah.
vulnerability? It's like being okay with putting yourself out there, whatever happens, right? You're putting yourself out there now, whatever happens, it happens, but you're comfortable enough with that fact. And I want to actually relate that with both of the main topics we were addressing today of wealth and sex, is that in business, a lot of times with especially new business owners, new entrepreneurs, one of the first things that you learn, and you can tell me if this was true for you too, but I feel like for everyone, one of the first things you learn as a new entrepreneur is that you're going to have to get yourself out your comfort zone, right? And that's kind of like a very basic thing, but I feel like we don't really understand it until we're like in it and people are telling us, okay, well, you have to try to do this even if it's not comfortable, like put yourself out there. One thing a lot of business owners will struggle with at the beginning is putting their face on camera if they've never been on camera before, like going live or filming videos and putting content out there. And people with Facebook profiles that have their family on it, they don't want to like post anything business related because fear of the appearance of failure, right? Like, what if this doesn't work? What if people laugh at me? What is that vulnerability? And so I think that being vulnerable and allowing yourself to be comfortable, it's not going to be comfortable, but allowing yourself to just be vulnerable and be okay with it
Embrace
however
the
you can,
discomfort.
is literally. And then once you, and my point here is that once you learn that and you learn to step out of your comfort zone and start becoming more vulnerable, what happens on the other side of that is that growth and that success and everything that you want to see. And the same thing applies to your sex life. Like I feel like a lot of people who are not having great sex or orgasms or whatever the case is, right? A lot of people who aren't experiencing that, especially females, I feel like it's because they are so, I guess, self-conscious during it. So many people are like, oh, I want to keep the lights off, or oh, I want to, keep some of my clothes on, right? Like people have that, right? And I feel like
Yeah.
those are the least likely to experience the full pleasure of all of it because they are not allowing themselves to be comfortable with their true authentic self. They're not allowing themselves to be vulnerable. They're holding themselves back. Maybe they're like thinking, oh, what if I sound weird? What if, like, what if he doesn't like this, right? What if I'm not good at it? What if like, he thinks I'm ugly or fat or like, whatever. Like these are all thoughts that females
So
I feel
many
like
thoughts.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it prevents them from just like being out there and just being comfortable, because I feel like once you allow yourself to do that and be vulnerable and just kind of just do it regardless, do it despite that feeling, that's on the other side of that, that's when like you'll experience crazy pleasure and the true goal, like what you want
Yeah.
of the greatness of the whole experience, right? So same thing goes for that, and same thing goes for business wise as well, is like when you allow yourself to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, at the other end of that is when you're going to experience that true success. And unless that vulnerability happens, unless you allow yourself to open up and step into that, you're not going to get to the other side of that true success and that true pleasure. So,
Yeah, it's just like, not showing up as your authentic self prevents you from being unconditionally loved and accepted, which is what most of us truly desire. We want to belong for who we are. If we are not showing up and allowing ourselves to be seen, right? Just the same thing as you were just talking about, allowing ourselves to receive that pleasure, allowing ourselves to, risk the failure in order to learn what is going to create our success. If we're not showing up, we are actively preventing the outcomes that we want, right? We're actively preventing ourselves from experiencing the pleasure, from experiencing, receiving the love, the acceptance, the success, the money, the joy, the vacations, all of the things that we truly desire, the visibility, whatever that looks like. And so, bringing all of this back together, I think we've done a nice job of that. Actually, that was
yeah.
quite smooth. I want to leave our viewers with something really practical that they can take. And so Irva and I discussed before this some things that you can take out of this training so that you can start taking that next baby step in the right direction. So, Irva, would you like to explain the first part of the journal prompts and then I'll explain the second part?
Yeah, so what I was thinking is this, it starts from clarity, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a great action step for you guys to take that's tangible after this is think about, like, take out a piece of paper, pen, journal, whatever, and think about in your sex life and in your financial slash business, career life that you have, describe one really positive thing that you like about it for each of those categories, and one kind of not so positive thing or negative thing that you don't really like about this situation, this category for yourself, right? And look at that negative aspect, especially, and start with the one that is bothering you the most. Start with the one that feels heavier for you than the other. Start with that one. You can prioritize that one even, and look at how can you fix that, right? How can you turn that negative into a positive, or how can you get out of that situation that maybe is weighing you down or you don't like, so that you do like it. Like, maybe, for just to give an example, like maybe in your love life, maybe you and you can jump in with an example too, because now I'm like trying to think of one. But like, maybe in your love life, maybe you're not happy with the way, or maybe you're not happy with how many dates you go on, right? And maybe it's like, okay, well, I think all the dates, like, I go on very few dates, and when I do have a date, or like when I do have a date plan, I'm like very having a lot of anxiety about it, right, beforehand. And I think that's something negative in my love life, because that anxiety kind of leads to either me canceling the date, or me not having like the best time, or just like, the other person can really like sense that energy, and it just like ends up not always being a great experience. And I just wish that my dating experiences were better, right? Maybe that is something that's like kind of the not so positive thing there. And then what you want to do is take that and think about what are some solutions, what are the options, like how can you fix that, right? And when you figure out like what are some, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, this is the solution. You can just brainstorm, do a brain dump, and there's no wrong answer, right? And when you have that in front of you, now you can start taking the action to implement that. And the purpose of this, just so you understand, like, okay, well, how does this relate to my business, or how does this relate to, like, is back to what Christy said at the beginning, is how you do one thing affects the way you do all, or is not affects the way, but is usually how you do all things.
Yeah.
Right. And so looking at the, maybe like the weakest thing that you feel like exists in your life, right? Or the most negative thing, or the thing that you feel like is weighing down on you the heaviest, or that you just dislike the most, right? If you look at that and try to fix that and bring it up, then everything else that you're doing will naturally also lift and go up and
Yeah.
get better.
And that's a natural way to elevate, your experiences across all areas and really reignite
Yes.
the passion that you have within yourself, right? By focusing on where maybe you're not feeling all of that passion, that fiery passion that you would like to be feeling, whether that's in, when it comes to your bank account or the bedroom. But the key thing here from what Ur was saying is, like, after you've done the journaling, figure out what the very next little tiny step is going to be. If you want better dates, maybe you can brainstorm some ideas of how you might get in a better state of mind, have a better mindset about the next date that you're going on. Maybe you're going to plan something that really lights you up, an activity that
Mhm.
sounds super fun, or something that's really nostalgic that you used to do when you first got together, so that you can go back and really feel the passion within yourself come back alive. And then allow that, just give yourself permission to allow that passion to flow in and around all areas of life. So,
Yeah.
yeah, with that, we want to sort of let you know, because maybe you're wondering, what is the next step if you're like really ready to light that fire?
Mhm.
And so, Irva and I both want to share what next steps working with either of us could look like for you. And we do invite you absolutely to reach out if you have questions or need additional support in any other areas. But I am really passionate about helping people, as I said at the beginning, to help create healthy, loving relationships, ones that like really, really like light your fire. You know what I mean? And I use what I have my special signature create methodology. It's not a linear process. It is really a meet you where you're at whole human process in order to help people to feel safe expressing themselves completely, clearly, and authentically, to help people build confidence being naked, both physically naked and emotionally, mentally, etc. By helping people to really feel deeply connected to themselves so that they can feel truly loved and accepted unconditionally for who they are without having to wear the masks, without having to people please, without having to live up to everyone else's expectations and shoulds, to really truly feel free to experience life and love on your terms so that you can feel truly fucking happy. That is I am the happiness sassy. That is my mission, to help people to truly feel happy. And I offer all kinds of different mentorship and support that is designed to meet you and serve you in a way that works for you, meeting you right where you're at today so that you can start reigniting that fire within. So I am going to very briefly share and then pass over to Irva, but I have two incredible programs that are designed to create this foundational relationship with yourself that actually sets the tone for creating healthy relationships with others. I have Love Reimagined. This is ultimately about transforming the love from within and how that overflows out into your experiences and the world around you. And Authenticity Unleashed is really designed to help people ditch the people pleasing and dive into authentically living. And that one includes boundary setting, communication, and vulnerability, all very crucial topics. So you can get both of these programs inside my current bundle, which is called the Love Unleashed bundle. And I currently have a special going on, and it includes 1 month of one-to-one pocket support and a copy of my daily self-discovery journal. These bonuses are available through May 31st. I also have one-to-one packages. I have a couple of other things going on. I have a 6-month group offering right now. I have all kinds of ways. So if you are looking to light the fire in your relationship, shoot me a DM and I'm happy to find out which one of these offers would be the best solution for you. Or you can check out my website at coachchristyholt.com and I'll share the link below the video. Irwa, to you, let's hear about your fantastic, amazing offers and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So first of all, I absolutely think that because I am a little bit more business and strategy focused. And so I do believe that if you feel like you're struggling with, your own sense of self-worth and just how comfortable you are doing things and you just feel those limitations or those internal like limiting beliefs limiting you and preventing you from moving forward, and that's something you work on, I absolutely recommend like going to Christy first, doing her stuff first, because that is going to be what then accelerates you when you work on your business, right? One way you do things is how you do all things. So
Foundational.
yes, foundational. Like I believe that it starts first there. Now, once you are like you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with that, and you're like, it's an everlasting process, right? We're always working on ourselves. I don't think there ever comes a point where like, what? Okay, we're good, we're amazing. Like I'm good. I don't have to work on my mindset anymore. Like I think even the most successful people in the world are constantly still working on it. So that's something that's never going to end. But once you feel like, okay, you're in a place that, yeah, you're ready to like work on your business and you feel like you have that in you where you can take that step, then talk with me. And even if you're not sure if you're ready yet, talk with me. I do before. So I have a one-on-one coaching consulting that I do where I literally will hold your hand and walk you through every step of your business, and get to your goals with you. But before I even take anybody on to that, because that's a very, I guess, exclusive thing or exclusive opportunity, because I don't, I'm one person and I've realized that I can't take everybody. So it's very like limited with who I take. And so I'm not like, okay, yeah, spots open, let's go. Like it's before even considering anyone to work with me and take up my time and energy, right? Because that also matters, is where you're putting your time and energy and who you're spending that with, including your clients. I do sessions. So this could be, again, if you're unsure, even if you don't want to work one-on-one, like that's okay too. I do one-on-one profit producing strategy sessions. So that's where we solidify, like, what are your goals? What are you doing right now? Like, to get to those goals, are you on the right track? Do you have like a plan in place that you're trying to work on? If not, then we can try to map that out. And what I really like to do on these calls, just to make sure that everybody gets some value from it, is identifying any current opportunities that you do have that we can take advantage of to increase that momentum, and then what your next best step is, identifying that. And then if we do decide like it's a good fit to work together, and you're excited about that opportunity, I'm happy to talk about that. It's not like something that's mandatory. If not, then I'll tell you your next best step, and if you align with it, great, you go off and execute on that. Or we can talk about some other opportunities and different ways you can either work with me or my team or do things. But ultimately, the goal of these profit producing sessions is to get you value and clarity, and help you just increase that momentum with what you're going forward towards your goals. So that is my main, I guess, call to action, if you will, is to book that session. And you said, Christy, will provide links below, right?
Yeah, we'll put all the links below.
Yeah. So, and then Instagram is something I started last year. Not very consistent with it yet, but I'm actually have a whole plan in place right now where we're going to start really going hard with the content and value, really business related stuff on Instagram. There's already some stuff there, but just so you know what to expect, you can follow me there at The Limitless Scale. And we'll provide the link for that as well. Let's follow each other. And then lastly, this is kind of unrelated, but I know some people, especially like entrepreneurs, who might benefit from this, is I know a lot of things people struggle with is like content. It's like a whole thing of, content marketing and putting yourself out there and what's right and blah, blah, blah. Right. So I'm actually just launching a freebie for that, to help you create super fast content that's actually proven to generate a ton of leads, ton of opportunity for you to work through. And it's free. If you want that, you can DM me on Instagram, fast content. Just DM that to me and I'll get that sent over to you. So those are some of those ways that you can connect.
Amazing. We will make sure that we have all of those details in the comments below, and the links for all of the things, so that we can get you the information that we promised here, and you can make the best decision for you. I want to just express my sincere gratitude for joining us, for listening all the way to the end. You're amazing, and I am so grateful for you. Again, invitation to connect. If you found this valuable, please definitely connect with both Irva and I. We would be happy to serve you, whether that's through the free content, through our additional free resources, or through paid offers. We're just here to serve. And so if you found this valuable, I would also invite you to go ahead and tag a friend who might find this also valuable. I think that's all I have to share for today. And I just, again, want to express my gratitude for Irva coming and sharing this incredible, beautiful conversation about how these topics are so intertwined. And I hope that this will light a fire that doesn't burn out for you in both the bedroom and the bank. If you have any other questions, pop them below. We will be happy to answer them for you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Enjoy this messy, fucking beautiful adventure that is life and love, and we will see you next time.